Happy Thursday night and welcome to TriVersity Talk. And have I got a surprise for you? This person to my right or to your left, depending if you're dyslexic or how things work out on your live stream. This is the one, the only guest co-host tonight. It's our Tim Moss. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so happy to be here. Yay.
Oh my God, it's so great to have you here. But it's also a little weird too, because you and I do a Wednesday show that you can now catch on Apple TV or Roku. It's called If These Walls Can Talk. So I did that show yesterday, and now I'm here with Tim again today, but I'm in a different location. I am discombobulated.
It's like deja vu or something.
Deja vu. There was a song like that, right?
Yes, a 70s disco hit.
We hope everybody is having a really good week. We have a really fun guest tonight that should be popping on momentarily.
Yeah, he's anytime. Yeah.
Anytime?
Anytime you want. Yeah, we can introduce him.
Okay, because he's in the house?
Yes, he's in
waiting. You know what? Wendy is blind as a bat. Our guest is in the house. My God, I'm so excited. I can hardly contain myself. And just let me tell you a little ditty about him. He lives by the Harvey Milk rule of being authentic and being out. His combination of pride experience and being an out teacher makes him an advocate and role model for out LGBTQ teachers. When I think of pride, I think of Alan Reiff.
Yay! There he is.
Hello.
Oh my God.
I feel like we're at a cocktail party because I know you both, so it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, every time that we're together is a cocktail party. That's like
that's true. I don't know if that's good or bad, Wendy.
But, you may live by the Harvey Milk rule of authentic and being out. We live by the next cocktail. So
that's true. I won't deny it.
We don't deny. So thank you so much for coming on tonight. And thank you so much, of course, for being who you are. A little backstory, ladies and gentlemen. The night of the Glam Awards, where If These Walls Could Talk was nominated for a Glam Award, Tim and I were there. Tim was interviewing all the celebrity nominees and some celebrities that weren't nominated, and just a lot of people that looked really great. And I sashayed off to the ladies' room, and on my way, my eyes locked with this gentleman right here. And there was just something about him. I'm like, we should be friends. Maybe we were friends. He looks familiar. No, you have that with people. I didn't know. Maybe it was a past life thing. But we got to talking, and I said, he told me all about his commitment to Pride. 37 years, I think.
Yeah.
37 years. And then, you know what? That barely sums it up. So, you know what, Alan? I'm going to let you take the floor. Okay. How did you become so involved with New York Pride? And then, of course, we'll get into, it's not just New York. You're doing Pride in the world.
Well, I started in my early 20s because there was an ad in a magazine for something called The Dance on the Pier. It was the very first dance. And I said, okay, let me volunteer. This is something new. It was, early 80s. And I went and I was handed a black hefty garbage bag, and I was part of the cleanup crew.
Oh, I know.
And I got to be a part of this event and see what it was about. And I had really never been in that situation before, where everybody was out, everybody was free. And I realized that being out in public and dancing is a form of activism.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Absolutely.
And it resonated with me. And so the following year, I became part of the advisory team, and I had incredible mentors like Janice, Tom, and I mean, there's just so many people who.
So wait, hold on a sec. You went from hauling a hefty bag to now you're part of an advisory team. That's a hell of a promotion.
Well, if you look at it, I'm still cleaning up messes.
Aren't we all?
Yes. So, I mean, it developed, and I've held various positions on the board with NYC Pride. And now I'm more just as a volunteer, because I'm not one of these people who have to be in charge. I don't have to be in front of the scenes. I'm very happy to be behind the scenes. I can be a leader, or I can be a team player. I just get great sense of satisfaction. It's how I self-identify. You know, I want to make safe spaces, because I didn't have safe spaces as a teenager. It was a really bad experience for me. And now as a school teacher, I'm like the biggest advocate for the LGBTQ students. And when I was I led a youth panel in Romania with my friend Mo George. And it was amazing to see young people who wanted to create change in a country. It's really nice.
I mean, my God, we have so much to talk to you about, because Tim's background with Pride, like yours, absolutely huge. And I've been going ever since they've had it. So I want to start off with, though, interesting to me that you said you didn't have the safe space growing up. You grew up in Queens?
Yes, in East Elmhurst, Astoria in Queens.
Okay, Astoria, Queens, you know. So I'm from the Bronx. And in my neighborhood, I tell people this: no one came out, you were just out, and that was all fine and dandy. So tell me about what your experience was growing up being gay.
I always knew I wasn't like everybody else, and evidently it came across to all the other kids. I mean, I was beaten up in the gym class. Kids would follow me home and throw basketballs behind my head.
Oh my God.
I was threatened to drop out of the school play in 7th grade, or I was going to be murdered by a kid who wanted the role. I mean, it was, you know, and then certain members of my family, not my parents were absolutely amazing from the day I was born, but there were other certain members of our family who later in life I realized were homophobic, who terrorized me emotionally as a child. And I just felt, you know, thank God my parents were supportive, and thank God I had an opportunity for therapy, which I recommend for everybody.
Absolutely.
And I don't want anybody to go through that again. I really think that's my largest motivation, that if I can do anything, I want people not to go through that. And my experience is not unique. I'm sure many people in their late 50s, early 60s have experienced the same thing. And it's such a pleasure to see young people today, which I know is a passion of yours, to educate and help young people to see the gifts that they have and the freedom they have, and to know that my generation had a little bit of helping them have that.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
And I mean, you and I have worked on so many projects together, so I know you feel the same way.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's got to do where people also, though, grew up, like Kevin Aviance or Tim, you know, gay, but like Kevin Aviance was telling us a story about, you know, being in 5th grade and dressing with a babushka on his head for the play. Total femme. Wasn't bullied, never had. Tim also grew up in the Midwest, a performer.
Mine was different, because I grew up in the countryside of Indiana in the 60s and the 70s. There was not even any mention of gay or lesbian. I didn't even know it existed. And I thought I was crazy, because I was more attracted to the boys than the girls. And I didn't have anybody to tell me otherwise.
Right.
And I mean, I would get yelled at and name called and all of that. And I didn't know that I actually was one of these names that they were calling me.
Can I just, my mother was a dancer her whole life. And when I was 7, I remember this specifically. She took me to one of the Dance Educators of America meetings with her. And there was a man named Mark who was one of her dance partners. And one day Mark came dressed as a woman, and everybody was calling Mark Mary. Now, this is 1967, okay?
Wow.
And I remember saying to my mother, why is Mark wearing women's clothing? That's not a woman, that's a man. Why? And my mother pulled me aside, and I'll never forget that. She said, that was Mark. God made a mistake and put Mary in Mark's body. And we have to be nice to Mark, because Mary is coming out now. And you have to call Mark Mary. And we have to help this person become who they are inside. And I'll never forget my mother telling me that before trans. So this is just the environment I grew up in, with this crazy dancer who wouldn't be bothered cooking a meal, but would drag us to every Broadway show and to make sure that I got into the High School of Performing Arts. And
What a great mom.
She would, you don't want to go to Stuyvesant. You don't want to go to
Tim, those are all the really great academic schools, like Stuyvesant, right?
Right. No,
you want to perform.
Yeah, I never got to meet Estelle, but the pictures and everything that you had shown of her and the stories you had told, oh my God, what a remarkable woman. Remarkable.
No, I couldn't be anything less than her son, you know. So.
So early on in the game, your mom was your advocate.
Absolutely.
Nice.
100%. Nice. And my father was very, very quiet, but he loved me unconditionally. I mean, to the day he died, you know, I could do no wrong in his eyes. He and I were very, very close. And I was fortunate that my mother died in my arms. So, I mean, I've had the best endings with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a beautiful relationship, you know, going on through.
Yes.
You know, you described, though, a lot of the pain of, I'm assuming you went to public school, right?
Yes, I did.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that was, we're talking, what, about the late 60s, 70s?
Yeah, yes, mid 60s, I started at elementary school and graduated from high school in 1979.
Yeah, I did. Okay. Too. I did too. So when did you first realize, or were conscious of, or become conscious that you like the boys rather than the girls?
Funny you asked me that, because I knew you were going to ask me a question like that.
Oh, you know Tim.
We had a substitute teacher. I had to be second or third grade, and his name was Mr. Abrams. And I can close my eyes and I remember him, and he had one of those big mustaches. And after recess, we went inside, and I was the leader, and he says, "You can hold my hand, Alan." And I remember seeing his hands were hairy. And his hairy hands just did something to me. And I'll never forget that's charged feeling, looking at this man with a mustache and thinking, wow, not having any idea what that meant.
Wow.
Hindsight, I just remember feeling something that this man is holding my hand and looking up at him. And
that's a very special thing that you've shared right now, really. Really. So when you went to the High School of Performing Arts, that had to be a game changer for you.
Absolutely changed my life. Some of my best friends are the people that I met in high school. We see each other all the time. We're all each other's best supporters. Unconditional love is the epitome of our friendship.
Nice.
And I went to high school with some really power players in the industry now, and none of us judge each other. Like, I'm a school teacher, and some of us have won Tony Awards. Some of us have producing shows on Broadway. But when we get together at Melba's, or we, you know, we're just high school kids chewing the fat.
I love that. That's true friendship.
So wonderful that you've all stayed in touch. You all support each other. And 100%. I mean, never say that you're just a school teacher. When I took a look at your resume and your involvement with GSA and involvement with LGBTQ teachers being out, I mean, you are the fiber, right, that holds all of that together. And certainly, like, our organization, TriVersity, is based out of Milford, Pennsylvania. But our main thing when we started 10 years ago was the kids. The kids were being bullied, or in these Christian households, the kids get thrown out. All right. Or, you know, when we were growing up, we didn't have the internet to be bullied with. I mean, the amount of kid suicides that happened from cyberbullying was just unbelievable. I didn't have that growing up.
No. And the New York City Department of Education is extremely cognizant of this, which is why they're promoting GSAs, gay straight alliances. There's a lot of sensitivity training. I'm very fortunate to have a principal who is just amazing and is an incredible ally and wants children to feel supportive and embraces diversity. And I'm sure it's happening in other schools, but the whole point is to save lives.
Absolutely. Now, don't you see My observation is like the generations that are coming on now are really quite incredible.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
As far as acceptance of gender
And self-awareness, correct?
sexuality, and right, and their
Yeah,
own self-expression.
unbelievable. I work with young people, and we always, in the adult world now, we've learned certain vernacular like cis male and trans male,
Right.
and
Yeah,
you have to use your pronouns when you identify. This is
Right.
just the acceptance of norm today. That's what you do.
Right.
But with young people, with being non-binary and gender non-conforming, for them, they're just queer. They are who they are. I am who I am. They didn't have
That's
to go through
amazing.
any process. I mean, we've given them this
Right.
opportunity to be. I mean, and it's wonderful.
And
But
even the word queer, we talk about that all the time for all of us.
It's a
the
horrible word for me.
that word.
yeah, that used to be very triggering for me. It took
Horrible
a
for
long
me.
time. Yeah.
But they love it because
Yeah.
they don't want to have a label.
Right.
So
Right.
to them, queer just means I'm not like everybody else.
Right. But also to have you as the teacher, as the
Oh my
a person
gosh.
in the role of authority to them who is openly gay. I mean, that makes such a statement, that I never had.
It's true. I was participating in LGBTQ Writers, which is a program for the Department of Ed.
Yeah,
And Mark Oshiro, who is an award-winning author, a New York City best publisher on the New York Times, spoke virtually to my class. I had 30 kids, and he came to speak to my kids through this program. And not all the kids were LGBTQ or questioning it. It was just a mishmash of kids. And they all had to read his book, Anger is a Gift. It was maybe one of the best experiences I've ever had as an educator, to see the interaction and the questions they asked him, and him bringing reading to life, and children have to read, otherwise they can't survive. I mean, I have goosebumps. You can't see
Alan,
it, but
you are. It's like I wrote a script for you, because you are the segue to the next thing I was going to bring up. Right now in Milford, Pennsylvania, while we're doing this, a bunch of people we know are attending a school board meeting at Delaware Valley High School. And the big issue at hand are these books that are being banned. And they are LGBTQ books. All right. If you all have been watching, it's in the news. It is national news. I think the list out of Texas is something like 350 books, LGBTQ books about people of color. This is a real issue. And while we're here having this discussion, because I always tell my friends in New York, Pennsylvania is 1 hour and 40 minutes away, but you know what? It could be 250 miles away in terms of the kinds of things we're dealing with. And we're dealing with the things that you're hearing about nationally.
Yeah.
And this is happening now. And one of the things we want to do in our center here, our TriVersity Center, somebody generously offered to do a donation to our center of a number of the banned books.
Oh, nice.
So, right. How great is that? I'm
Right.
curious, Alan, what has been your experience? Or have you heard grumblings about book bannings? Or, I mean, I know you're coming out of the New York area,
Yeah, I
but
was going to say, here in New York, there probably aren't really.
in New York, it's a little, we are living in a bubble. You know what I mean? It's a little blue bubble in New York City. But I have friends who are teaching outside of New York, and it's funny because what they're telling me is that the kids are reading the books. Nobody's having a problem with it. The teachers are not having a problem with it. But then you get a few people on school boards who make this the cause celeb, where it's really not a problem. Like, look at Florida with this, you can't use the word gay law.
That was my next comment.
yeah.
So it's like, it's you're using a small fraction of society may have a problem with it, and they have a right to, we live in a pluralistic society. Everybody doesn't have to agree, but the minority should not be the ones in control.
Agreed.
And this is.
But Alan, the minority is also saying, I agree with you. We're in a pluralistic society, but then they start making stuff up on a number of the Facebook pages for a lot of these groups. They say things like, these books are for pedophiles. These books
Yeah.
are about so now they have crossed this line into pedophilia. There and they have I've seen accusatory things on there where they refer to somebody as a pedophile. I am sorry, but this is out of control. Out of control.
Or pedophile, or comparing to like bestiality, or
yeah,
I mean,
Tim,
it's definitely not good. I don't have any authority or any professional acumen to speak on what should be done, you know.
Right.
But I
we
think
all have opinions.
It's a call to activism, you know, which brings me back to my Pride work, where there was a need that you had to step up and speak out. And it's cyclical. Now it's this. When I first started, it was just to the right to be a human being. Then it was the right to get married. And then it was domestic partnership. And then, you know, now you have these schools wanting to ban these books, which isn't new because, you know, there were books being written all along, but now it's the cause celeb. And, you know, and I don't want to play politics, but, you know, in our past administration gave permission for bad behavior.
Absolutely.
So,
empowerment of it.
No. But I mean, it just amazes me, like the Florida law that was just passed. This is 2020.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Like how far we have come, our civil rights movement. And yet this, you can't even say it.
And the only good thing about this is that the United States LGBTQ community is realizing what the rest of the world is going through. And I can say, with my little experience being on the board with NYCPride, which is the International Association of LGBTQ Pride Organizers, that I've had this wonderful opportunity to do a great deal of traveling and speaking at events and helping organize events globally. I mean, and we are now understanding what it's like 10 years ago to have been in Warsaw and to lose your job if you're LGBTQ. And 5 years ago, I marched with Stuart Milk in Vilnius, Lithuania, and the police were arm in arm protecting us at Baltic Pride because people were jumping over the barriers with Molotov cocktails and knives. And the EU parliamentary leaders were marching with us, and diplomats were marching with us, because if international leaders did not march with us, the local police couldn't protect us. So the ambassadors decided to show support to the community. And because the ambassadors were marching, the local police by international treaty had to protect. So I mean,
that's an incredible story. I have not heard. Wow.
I'm very fortunate to have role models like Stuart Milk, Harvey's nephew, and to have met a lot of, I mean, I knew Marsha P. Johnson. I met her. I know Mama Jean, all these Stormy, who was at the, the 1969 Stonewall riots, the beginning of our movement. I have had this privilege experience, and my friends have taught me, especially my friend Mo George. She said to me, listen, do you know what white privilege means? You need to take this white privilege and you need to turn it into a superpower. And you need to do everything you can do to make the world a better place. So I'm keenly aware that I have a gift given to me. Wow. And I need to make sure that I do everything I can to help anyone I can.
That's wonderful. But how courageous were these ambassadors and these politicians
I was thinking,
in Romania to join together? That took a lot of courage. And
absolutely,
for allies,
an example of what we may need to do in this country.
Absolutely. And again, so many of the younger generation don't realize that it was not that long ago that one thing that you had mentioned before about being able to, like, same sex to hold hands and the first time I remember going out to Fire Island back in the 80s and seeing two men walking hand in hand on the beach floored me.
Wow.
Oh my God, they're actually holding hands. I had never seen anything like that before. And again, it wasn't that long ago.
No.
And they're showing that it can come unraveled fairly quickly.
I walk in the streets in Astoria and I see all these young lesbians and young gay people.
Right.
holding hands and nestling, and it's so comfortable for them. And I still stop and have to stand up against the wall, and sometimes I cry of joy that it's like, look at this freedom. We could lose it in a second.
Well, you paved, you paved the way for that, but not to be a Debbie Downer, but we've got some really awful stuff on the table now. Okay. What happened in Florida, because it could take very little for other states, and we know what those states are, to step up and want to do the same thing. And again, this thing with the banning of the books, I tell all my New York City friends about this, whether they have kids or not, because that's a shutdown of freedom of speech. Okay. And once they start shutting that down, they can go after absolutely anything.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the key to fixing all this is education. You said it all, that you have to start by educating the population and desensitizing people, and making people aware that you're not, we're not going to steal your children, and we are who we are in the LGBT community, and you are who you are in the leftist or the rightist, and there's space for everybody, at the table.
There's space for us all.
Why do people think that gay is contagious? Like,
religion's a powerful drug, Tim. You know that.
Thank you. No, Tim, and ignorance is a powerful drug.
Absolutely.
And, the people that do think it's contagious, or on some of these blogs I've been on, not normal. No, this doesn't concern me because my kids are normal. I saw a parent write that. My kids are normal.
Wow.
Right. But it is definitely a lack of education, not even necessarily in a book education. Oh, it's awareness, it's empathy, and it's sensitivity. Okay. We are all different.
And this is the reason, I think, the evolution, for lack of a better word, of the Pride movement used to be fighting for rights. Now it's involved for education and making sure people are aware. And I hope that we don't have to go back to fighting for our rights, but where you are at the TriVersity Center and have NYCPride, and you have InterPride, you have organizations like the European Pride Organizers Association, the United States Association of Prides, all these organizations that are about producing Pride events, creating safe spaces, whether it's a picnic, whether it's a march, whether it's a parent movie night, which NYCPride is doing in June for families, or a human rights conference, which is happening in Pride Month. All of these things are about desensitizing and making people aware. And, we're always talking about solidarity. I'm just going to plug something here. And on March 19th, we discussed this, that there's a really big internet event coming up called Silence to Solidarity, which is being produced by InterPride, and we have a lot of sponsors, and it's all about educating people and people talking, and it will be a really fantastic event. And if people can just log in and listen and learn, and it will be with entertainment.
Alan, isn't it next Saturday night?
It's the 19th. It's the 19th at 5 p.m. East Coast time, and it's 9 p.m. GMT time for people listening around the world. And you'll have, if you follow Eurovision, Netta, who won a few years ago for I'm Not That Girl, is going to be on, and there are sponsors like TripAdvisor. So, there may be some prizes. I don't know. Who knows? But I mean, the entertainment and the educational component of this is well worth everybody's time. And it doesn't compete with anything you're doing on the air. So I don't feel bad about promoting this event.
No, I want you to promote it.
I love it.
Tim, can you put that in the chat maybe? How do we put that?
Oh, goodness.
Listen to me. He's non-technical, but you've sent me...
Oh, no. I'm not an administrator on this.
Oh,
site.
darn. Wait, it's something just came up. Silence to Solidarity. You just wrote that in. Thank you, Alan.
Well, that's in the private chat. Is Stephen, is he?
He may be able to, but when we end the show, I'm going to have you talk about it again and let people know when it is. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, just throw it up there. So I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. not
Okay.
either one of you, but I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. NYC Pride. Not my elephant, okay? But we all know the controversy that has surrounded it. And then we know that they came up with the I'll call it the alternative Pride March. And this has happened, it started before COVID, and then of course we had these alternative marches during COVID. I would love to get your take on it, Alan. I had on the show Mariah Lopez, who gave me her take on it, you know, because she, and there's many people that I know personally that would think it should all go away because it's become commercialized and polarized and this eyes and that eyes. What is your opinion?
All right. First of all, I am not a board member of NYC Pride. I hold no authority.
No, but you have an opinion.
I cannot speak for this organization, so anything that I might say is just my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay,
And since I've been a volunteer for 37 years, my focus is we must have events. In any form, we have to have an event, because having an event gives young people and old people and people in between and gender non-specific people and people of every color on the rainbow, they see other people like them out and proud, and it will make you step off the street and participate. So whatever it takes to have events, I'm willing to sit down at the table and talk to anybody to negotiate anything that needs to be done, because the bigger picture is our community. We have to think of our community.
My God, I totally agree with you. So in your opinion, right, this is how I think. The people that don't want NYC Pride, they have a whole bunch of reasons and finger pointing or whatever. Where can we go with a negotiation? How do we get both sides to sit down?
Or a possibility of a combination or a blend.
A hybrid.
Nothing in life is perfect. No situation.
Right.
There's always going to be ups and downs.
Right.
But if you look at the history of what originally was called Heritage of Pride, when I worked with them, they were groundbreaking and trendsetters. And we wouldn't be where we are if Heritage of Pride, which is now incarnated to NYC Pride, didn't do what they did. So I would say, look at everything that has happened. There's always going to be bumps in the road, but you know the old expression, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, you know, there has to be compromise, and we have some incredible leaders now at Heritage of Pride. I have faith in them that they will find the right answers. I'm just a volunteer. I'm no longer in any position of authority. I'm here as a mentor. I'm here to help in any capacity I can. And I believe in my heart that the right path will be found for compromise. But you have to be willing to compromise. You have to be willing to sit down at the table. We're not Ukraine and Russia here. You know what I mean? We're all members of the LGBTQIA community. And at the end of the day, we want the same goal. So we have to find common ground. And I believe that all players, you know, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. And I cannot say anything bad about an organization that made me who I am. I would not be the person I am if I didn't have 37 years. It's like a family. Every family has growing pains. And I truly believe in my heart that at the end of the day, a proper answer will be found that will be acceptable to everybody.
Right. But there has to be on both sides an understanding that it's a give and take, you know, that but also like even with the gay community, at least from where I came from and my experiences, when I was first coming out, it was underground. It was we weren't allowed to even be public about it. And at that time, it was so unified. It was you'd walk into what was called the gay club, and there would be gays and lesbians, and you'd always have a drag queen that had to come out and perform. And we were all just together as one, partying and as a family. And then as it seemed to grow and evolve over the years, you had, you know, the gays and the lesbians kind of separate, and then
groups. It started.
You had the twinks, and then the bears, and then even in the bear community, you've got the muscle bears and the polar bears and the this bear and that, you know. And it's just like, I don't know.
Don't forget the otters.
I don't know why people in society, it seems like there's always this splintering and separating after it gets to a certain point. You know what I mean?
But you answered your own question. It's 2022, and society allows people for self-identification and self-determination. When this first started, we didn't have that. So now we have the freedom to self-identify, and as more people are self-identifying, you have more colors of the rainbow, more differentiation. So I don't know if that's a bad thing. The only problem is that we all must remember that at the end of the day, we want the same thing. And that's
we're all one.
But you're both. That's what you're both saying, and I get what Tim means. Even I see it in this organization and at events and everything. Everyone got so comfortable, right? That now they can go and do their group. But that's not going to work for the unification of that LGBTQ plus, right? It's not going to work for the fluidity of those letters. How do we come together again as a community? Again, I find it very polarized, especially in Milford. You have all different groups. But New York City is, because it's bigger and there's a lot more in every group, but you still have your groups here. You walk into a gay bar and it's missing a lot of women, lesbian women, right? Lesbian friends of mine, they'll go to Stonewall. They feel very comfortable there. But a lot of the other gay bars, they don't feel comfortable in. And transgender people often don't feel comfortable in those places either. So
you just hit, we say LGBTQ, but but how much are we really doing for the T, the trans community? This is the new fight. This is the new fight. I think everybody must be an ally.
Who had been our vice president was on here right now, because she talks about this all the time.
It's true. We must all be allies to the trans community, because their fight is our fight. They were there for us in the early days, and now we must be there for them.
Absolutely. And because I think that, in my opinion, I think where there's some misunderstanding in our community is the L, the G, and the B are all based on sexuality, and the T is gender.
Wow, Tim.
And that I don't think that necessarily the L, the G, and the B get that. You know what I mean? Because I've had a lot of trans say that they don't identify as like gay or anything. They identify as another gender.
Right.
And I think that is one of the main miscommunications, or the feeling of the alienation by the trans community.
It is a feeling of alienation, but like what Alan was saying, that then the support, right, of the gay community, the lesbian community, outwardly showing that you're an ally.
Absolutely.
Do you know Melissa Sklar's, who
I had her on the show. I adore her, and I saw that you all are friends. I let her know tonight.
Yeah, Melissa taught me a very, very powerful lesson a while ago. She said to me, you can't just pick up the phone and invite a member of the trans community to come and do something for you, because that's not going to show them you're committed. You have to go to their events. You have to come to my meetings, volunteer at my events, and show the trans community that you're walking the walk and talking the talk. You're here to support us, so that when you turn around and say, hey, will you come and help something I'm doing? They understand it's a real give and take. So, I mean, that was a very powerful lesson that I learned.
Absolutely.
Well, Melissa's such a rock star anyway.
Right.
She, Tim knows her, got her for me to come on. I absolutely adore her, and she's so smart.
Yeah, this is really one of the tenets and the heroines. I don't know what the proper terminology is, but really a god in our community, because Melissa has done so much and is so eloquent and is a role model for anybody. And every word that comes out of her mouth is a pearl. Grab it.
Yes, yes, and is so authentic.
Right.
Has just been one of those leaders and trailblazers who just lived her life unapologetically. And I cannot say enough about her. But now Melissa is also Queens, in
Yes,
Queens.
she's a
I
neighbor.
just-
She lives in the next town over.
Oh,
Which side?
fabulous.
In town away.
Well, I wanted to just touch on Queen's Pride because you were involved with Queen's Pride as well with Danny Drum,
Yes.
who started. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that?
Well,
And
you'll have to ask me your question.
well, the
Oh, tell
development.
me about Queen's
It's what,
Pride.
25 years, I think, 25.
Yeah,
or
we 25 years it was started because of a murder
Yeah.
in the community where they held Queen's Pride, and Queen's Pride continued all these years. It was the second largest pride in New York City. And what made Queen's Pride special was that it evolved into not just an LGBTQIA plus event. The whole neighborhood came out. You had straight people there with their families, and Latino
Fabulous.
and Indian and
Yeah,
Chinese
and
and black and
Jacksonite,
white.
yeah.
And everybody just came together. It was a very unique experience. I've been to 1,000 prides all over the world, but nothing quite compares to what Queen's Pride has been with the small geographic space it has to do its events in, and the diversity of the audience and the community support. It was a really amazing experience in my life to have been a part of that.
Yeah, because that is kind of a representation of how things should be, where an entire community comes together and joins in.
Tim, I'm curious because
that's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite prides to perform.
You do Bronx Pride. Is Bronx Pride? So I know of these prides. I have not been to either one. I've always been in the New York City Pride. What about Bronx Pride? Is it similar to Queen's Pride?
It's many different events, if I'm not mistaken. You have some gentlemen who organize a march around the Bronx Borough President. You have the Third Avenue store, the Third Avenue bid, where they have a stage and they have something there. Then there's the health fair in Crotona Park. So Bronx Pride is much broader, and it reaches different communities with different things.
Interesting.
And then, you have Brooklyn Pride, which created the first night march. They did a night march and the 25K run, and then there was Long Island Pride for many years. And then there's Staten Island Pride run by the Staten Island Pride Center. And you have a lot of smaller groups now who, as we're talking about self-identification, who are coming up and almost demanding representation that I want a seat at the table too, which I absolutely love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And New York is a little microcosm. It's unlike any other place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although the thing about that I have always loved about Pride in New York, all of these different groups, Southern India, like, who knew
Alga, the South Asian lesbian,
all these different groups, because New York's such a melting pot, and you have all these people that leave other places and they're gay, and then they can come here and they can be free and live their life.
Well, this is the purpose of Pride, to create the essence of being a Pride activist. And there may be some who disagree with me, but maybe this will be on my tombstone. I don't know. But to be a Pride activist means to create safe spaces to be out, whether you have a picnic, whether it's just to walk down the street holding hands, or it's to do a world Pride. We've had them all over the world, in New York, in Denmark, in Jerusalem, in Rome. The first one was in 2000. Whether it's big or it's small, the essence of our work is for you to be authentic, to be yourself, to be out in a safe space without fear of retribution. And that's what we should be doing.
Absolutely.
So and thank you for that. You've been involved with Lithuania, you said, right?
Yes, I was fortunate to go to Lithuania for the Baltic Pride. And
how long ago was that, Alan?
Mid to late 2000s.
Mid to late 2000. So not that long ago.
No. Within 10, I'd say maybe 10 or 12 years.
So I'm wondering, first of all, have you been in touch with people in that part of the world?
Absolutely. The president of the European Pride Organizers Association, Christine Garina, is based in Latvia, in Riga, and I consider her a close friend.
Well, I want to talk about that, because that's something I don't think is getting enough news coverage with what's going on there. What is happening in the LGBTQ plus communities there?
All right. Well, in the Baltic Baltic prides every year. It's in a different country.
Right.
They're pretty stable. You know, Russia has not gone back into those countries.
Not
If you
yet.
want to really talk about a hot spot now, let's talk about Kiev Pride
Yes.
and Kharkov Pride in the Ukraine. You have two prides that the whole country is being besieged. So I'm not saying any, but if you're an LGBTQ activist in the Ukraine right now, the Russians see you as detrimental to society as they're looking to get President Zelensky. Now, by no means am I saying being a pride activist is as important as this amazing role model of President Zelensky. He is the role model of what we all hope to be when we grow up.
That's a
but
true
the LGBTQ leaders in Kharkov Pride cannot even leave the city. The city is besieged, so they're underground and they're hiding. And all the pride organizations around the world, InterPride and IPOA, are collecting money and donations to help them just stay alive and to have food. It reminds me of like Anne Frank during the Holocaust.
Right. Wow.
And in Kiev, to get one car out of Kiev, if you can still even do that now, it's approximately $1,000. How many people can you put in a car? Maybe 5. So, I mean, everybody needs to get out of Ukraine if they can. But if you're an out LGBTQ activist, you have a target on your forehead.
That's what I was going to say. Out and go. Where can they go? They can't go anywhere.
If you're in Kiev, you still have, I mean, you can see people every day trying to get out of Kiev if they ever hold up to these lanes of a ceasefire. But it's not just the LGBT community. Everybody needs to get out. I'm not giving any one group more precedence than another. But if you are perceived to be an effeminate gay man and you are known to have organized Kiev Pride, as opposed to an 80-year-old grandmother and grandfather who are the fabric of Ukrainian society,
of the culture,
they may be able to get out of the country easier than this cis white male who may be effeminate, or a cis white female who is more masculine, who identifies maybe as you know what I'm saying. So this is where the money might be best channeled right now. I mean, there are plenty of, look at Uganda, look at Houston. There's problems in Houston with trans women of color being murdered every day. So there's things all over the planet, but in the news right now is the Ukraine. So this is the cause celeb. So, and I say it again, the United States is only 5,000-6,000 miles away. You're talking about book burning. We're talking about laws in Florida changing. We're talking about revoking marriage equality if the administration changes. So people, open your eyes.
It's slippery slope.
Take the streets. Don't be complacent.
Tim, it's a slippery slope. Alan, you're the first person
downhill slope
that I heard within, and Tim and I know so many people. You're the only one that has spoken about what's going on with the LGBTQ community there. I have to tell you, I've asked other friends, and I'm guilty of it myself. I don't know, but I thought I would ask you because I know you have spent time.
And I have friends there that I speak to.
Yes, Tim. Yes.
I just wanted to say, because we're running out of time, but I just wanted to first say that one of the things that I admire about you so much is you have done grassroots. You've done Queens Pride, local. You've done New York City Pride, which is one of the largest prides in the United States. You've also been involved with NERP, which is the Northeast Regional Pride, which is a section of the country. You've also done InterPride, which is international pride, which is affecting globally, and also worked with World Pride. So firstly, thank you very much.
Yeah, really.
I'm one of many. I mean,
I know, but your contribution, you are one that is
thank you
on so many different levels. So
I'm going to say thank you for everybody. No one does it alone. I'm part of a team and a collaboration. So if you see me in this role, I stand on the backs of many, many people. So
yes, but again, you are there on the front lines. You have been doing the work, and thank you very much. Can I just add in the comments? Mary Weber Krause had said, Alan R., we are yelling at the TV. Thank you for acknowledging that the
Mary
says, thank you for acknowledging that the trans community also needs to be supported. And then she goes on to say, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu.
Right. Mary is fierce. She is the one that puts all of our articles together on our TriVersity Center page on Facebook. You know, she posts, she aggregates everything from all of the publications. And she's like a current events person. It's one-stop shopping. And she is also the wife of Simone. And you were talking about Melissa Sklar. Simone is unbelievable speaker, is really being asked all over now because she is like a Melissa Sklar's, just, you know, incredible speaker, so honest, authentic, and can walk the walk and talk the talk. And these are people that you listen to.
Absolutely.
And they know their stuff, and they are going to be the people that you can send out there to affect and change minds. Simone and Mary, I just love the both of them. So yay. And thank you all for being here with us tonight. Alan, how do you never give up? How do you just keep going? It's hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
But you wake up, you watch the news, or you talk to a friend, and there's always something new that lights a new fire underneath you. The last couple of years, it's been my work with the GSA and helping kids. And now that I'm back on the board with NYCPride, you know, we're doing all these international things. And March 19th, the Silence to Solidarity event. Last year, when we couldn't have prides, we had Global Pride, which was the first 24 hours, each hour in every time zone around the world. I mean, there's always something new. You just have to open your eyes. And if you don't find new things, you become extinct, you know? I'm 60 years old. I may not look it, but I certainly don't want to become extinct. I want to keep going.
Right.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Because if we can't keep going, then we can't affect change in the world. And
absolutely.
You know
I'll have my walker. I'll be going down the street with my walker and a bullhorn.
And maybe it'll be tastefully decorated too. I don't know, a couple of like some gladiolas and carnations.
I'll call you to do that for me.
It's been
you have an amazing sense of style. So.
Right. Of course, nothing less. So with the people that you know, how do the people that you have been friends with right along in the community, how do they see you? If I were to go up to somebody and say to them, tell me about Alan Reiff, how do you think they would describe you?
I'm a good friend, and I'm a good son.
And a good person.
I think that's what they would say to you. Oh, Alan, he's a really good friend, and he was a really good son. That may be my claim to fame. And I think from that spurs me on to everything else. And I love teaching. I love my kids. I learn something new every day from my kids.
Well, that was going to be my next question, though. If you go in your memory, are there certain kids that you know, and you don't name them, but an experience that you want to share and how you were really able to support a kid?
When I first started the GSA, I had a group of young girls, and in the beginning they wouldn't talk, and then eventually we would close the door and we would have lunch together, and they asked me, you know, what are pronouns? Can I change my pronouns? And at the end of that year, we went to a conclave that the New York City Department of Education produced for junior high school and high school GSAs. And I remember sitting on the bleachers and seeing all these kids together and watching the face of the students that I brought there, like their eyes open. And they looked around and they thought, I'm not alone. I'm 12 years old, but there are people like me. And I thought, okay, that will stay with me forever, because I didn't have that at 12 years old.
Right. Wow.
And for me, my eye-opener was very similar. It was the first Pride that we brought our kids in from TriVersity, and I had arranged it because I had always been doing Pride, and, you know, I wanted to turn our organization onto it. And we got a bus and we brought the kids in. And I'll never forget this, everything that I took for granted, because I grew up in New York, Bronx girl, I took it all for granted. Hearing those kids say, oh my God, I never knew there were so many gay people. Yeah. Never take it for granted.
No, you think we're kind of, well, I'm going to make it an I statement. I'm a little jaded. I always assume, and then through the eyes of young people, it's something new. Or like as a teacher, when children learn something and you see that light bulb go off, that they get a math equation or they get how to write a paragraph. It's the same thing with students who belong to the GSA. The light bulb goes off and it's like, I'm not alone. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm part of a greater community. It's powerful. And it's our job as the senior members of this community to make sure that young people feel safe and are educated.
I totally agree. And not only that, and Tim and I talk about this, passing along, how we got to where we are, who we are, but also learning from them. And you said that earlier in the show. It's what they can give us, which is such a gift.
Absolutely.
Which is such a gift. So we are down to the wire, Alan. You get your 60 seconds or however long you want to.
Firstly, can you tell us about Silence of Solidarity or Silence to Solidarity again?
It's our big event called Silence to Solidarity. It's going to be held on Saturday, March 19th, and it's free. It's broadcast live stream on NYCPride, Reverie, or I believe the NYCPride Facebook page will have it. There are speakers, entertainers, and the money raised from this, a percentage of this goes to the Ukraine support groups. Money from this also goes to produce our Solidarity Grant program through NYCPride and our Humanitarian Legacy Fund. So the money goes right back into the community. And it's fun. You'll have a good time. You'll be entertained. And a lot of people.
Question. I think it's 7. I have an event at that time. Will this be taped?
Yes, it's 5 p.m. East Coast time.
Oh, okay.
And 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So 5 hours later. And after it's done, you can then go on the internet and watch it after the fact.
So like YouTube, it'll be on YouTube.
I'm sure it will be on YouTube.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Continue your good work. When I knew I was having you, there was only one person I could have on as a co-host, which was Tim Moss. Because I always joke, do not try and find Tim Moss the month of June. He's like 4 and 5 things a day. It's really, and
you said the NERP conference. I'm going tomorrow to Allentown, PA, Tim, which is what you and I usually are at these conferences together.
Yes.
And then when I get back, I hope we have another event together, Wendy, downtown. I love to hear you.
I have a whole bunch of events. And, as you know, with the Imperial Court as well, we've got events coming up. And, I invite everybody to everything.
But I go when you invite
me. Alan, also, I am having my big 60th birthday.
Oh, yeah.
On April 30th.
Okay.
Saturday, April 30th. I'll send you the info, but I would love to do it.
We haven't done anything in a long time. I mean, we keep waving at each other at events, but it'll be nice to see each other in person.
I agree.
Okay, before my parting thing, I always take a picture. Everybody look at me and go, cheese.
Cheese.
Thank you. Tim, thank you so much for guest co-hosting
tonight.
My
pleasure.
Alan, thank you so much for bumping into me on my way to the ladies' room at the Glam Awards.
It's the best bump I've had in a long time.
Good night, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you.